Week 8 in college football, big one in the Big Ten. Number 7 Penn State is going to number 3 Ohio State. This game is 11 a.m. Central on Fox. Currently, Ohio State is a 4.5-point favorite. Ted, there is going to be talent all over the field on this game, in this game, future pros everywhere. And I won't lie, man, I think Penn State is the better team at the line of scrimmage with what I've seen. I think they are very capable of going and winning this game. Am I a crazy person?
No.
James Franklin is 1-8 against Ohio State. He's never beaten Ohio State in Columbus. And a large part of me thinks they're going to go win.
Yeah, it's going to be their best opportunity. He's not going to have a much better team than he's got right now. And although Ohio State's really good, I mean, this is about as down as we've seen them, where it's not a sure thing. I think McCord is looking better. I think their defense is definitely looking better, but they're gettable. Penn State's going to have to go in, run the football really well. They've got to play a super clean, smart football game. They can't have special teams mistakes. They can't have turnovers, and they got to be able to run the ball. If they can do that, they've got a really good shot.
Penn State, that turnovers killed them in this game a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now, looking at their run game, they have not had the explosive runs with Allen and Singleton that I think they expected to have. But on the other side of things, Ohio State is banged up at running back. It's a bit of a mystery who's going to play at running back for them. So I think that's a huge factor in this game. I expect Kyle McCord to make some big plays in the passing game. He's got Marvin Harrison Jr., right? I mean, they're going to make some plays, and we'll see if Ibuka can go. He's been banged up. But I think this game is going to come down to Drew Aller in some key situations. He's going to have to make some big-time throws in high-pressure situations where he is either getting hit or getting pressured by that really, really strong Ohio State defensive line. Penn State's offensive line is going to have to hold up well enough against that group to give him time to attack what I believe is the weakness of Ohio State's team, and that's the secondary. So I am expecting a great football game. I kind of view it, I think it's going to be a little lower scoring, but I'm expecting something similar from a competitive standpoint as what we saw from Washington and Oregon last week. Like, that's the type of game that's the type of level of competition I'm expecting in this one. I will be really surprised if it's not a great football game.
Totally agree. If James Franklin can't beat Ohio State with the team he's got this year, it ain't happening, right? I mean, this is the best that they've been. Now, they've been good, and they've been on this slow uptick. Last year was a good, solid year for them, but you got to get past, there's a mental block there, and if they can't get past it, it's almost like they're going to be doomed to be third place in the Big Ten for eternity. You got to get over the hump. You got to win one of these. You got to go out there on the road. It's going to be a tough football game. You got to play smart. You got to be physical, and you're going to have a couple of your big-time players show up. I mean, that's all there is to it. I mean, you got to give the edge to Ohio State for being at home. I think you give the edge to Ohio State, obviously, because of, the recent record against Penn State. And I think you give Ohio State the edge talent-wise. But that's how you still got to go win it. I mean, that's how it's always going to be. with Penn State against Ohio State. That doesn't mean that you can't win the football game whenever they've got the edge in those categories. They just got to go. Like, turnovers are going to be the killer. They have to win the turnover battle, or it's just not going to happen. And it may not be close. If they go in there and turn the ball over 3 times, they may get their asses kicked.
Yeah, we'll see. The interesting part for me is Penn State's strengths on defense match up really well to Ohio State's strengths on offense. Right? They haven't run it particularly efficiently offensively. They got just dudes everywhere at wide receiver, though.
Yeah.
But Penn State, they may have the best corner tandem in all of college football. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of fun things to watch in this game. I'm fired up. Who you got winning it?
Ohio State.
I'm taking Ohio State. It's one of those I'm going to have to see it before I believe it situations with James Franklin going and winning in Columbus because he's never done it.
If they don't beat him this year, I just don't see it happening, aside from like a one-off where they upset him. But when you've got a really good team, Penn State, and you're going up against Ohio State, like, this is as close talent-wise as it's been in a really long time. As long as I can remember, you got to be able to go get it done, or it's not going to happen. I mean, I don't know. James Franklin has won a lot of football games there. He hasn't won a whole lot of big football games there.
No. Things have not gone well against Michigan and Ohio State for James Franklin. And the fun part about this game, no matter what team loses, there's going to be a lot of discourse around the head coach.
Yes.
Right. Because Ryan Day, the whole thing has been, well, he's lost to Michigan a couple times in a row, but he doesn't lose to anyone else. They start losing to Penn State. Watch out now, especially in Columbus. Watch out now. And then if Penn State goes and gets beat again, I assume that fan base is just going to be like, are we ever going to beat this team with this guy as the head coach? So it's going to be fun either way, man.
No, I agree. It's somehow Franklin has largely been able to skip the negative press, losing to Ohio State or Michigan. But now that he's got, that's one of the problems with having one of the better teams that you've had in a while is the expectations are going to catch up with you. And it's like, okay, well, now talent wise, it's as close as it's ever been. Go get it done. Like, you are supposed to be able to bridge the gap. That's why you make as much money as you do. Whenever we play some teams that maybe have a little bit more talent, like coaching wise, we should be able to at least level the playing field. Got to go do it.
I'm with you. All right. Looking at our next game, number 17 Tennessee travels to Tuscaloosa to take on number 11 Alabama. I don't know why I said Alabama like that. These SEC people are Alabama. 2:30 on CBS. Bama is a 9.5-point favorite. Ted, when I look at these two teams, I feel like these are two teams that want to play a similar style right now. I think they want to lean on their run games. They want to pick their spots, take some deep shots in the passing game. But I think both of these teams want to rely on the strength of their football teams, and that's their defenses. I will be shocked if this game looks like it did a year ago. Right? Remember that track meet?
Yeah. This is going to be like a 14-17 game or something, right?
That's how it feels. And when I look at the matchup, I think the key is which quarterback makes the critical mistake or the critical mistakes, because Tennessee cannot afford for it to be Joe Milton and Bama can't afford for it to be Jalen Milroe. Right? I think Tennessee's run game has looked better than Bama's. man, with what I've seen from Bama's offensive line, I'm just not confident enough in that group to play at a consistently high level to dominate this Tennessee team that's playing this well on defense. I I looked at this spread and I went, what? I'm missing something because it feels like Tennessee plus 9.5 is free money. I just maybe Joe Milton's going to be horrible. Maybe that's the case. But the
He
way that
might
they're
be.
running it and the way that they're playing defense, I think this is going to be a ball game, man.
Well, the interesting thing about it is, 9.5. For instance, last year in this game, 9.5 is not a whole lot of points, right? But with two offenses that haven't scored nearly as much as they did a year ago, 9.5 points feels like just like an avalanche of points. I'm with you, but I also know that anytime something looks like this, it's like there's something going on, like the West Virginia Houston spread, right? I felt like that. Oh, come on, Houston, no way. But whenever you look at the Alabama's SEC games, 24 they put up against Ole Miss. They did score 40 against Mississippi State, but 26 against Texas A&M, 24 against Arkansas. This team does not score a lot of points. And that's why I think it's going to be a low scoring game. And in a low scoring game, I think like the number should be more like 4.5 than 9.5.
Yeah, I am.
But
I
there's
don't
some
know.
revenge factor in there too. And I will say that I do think that Alabama is a lot better than what most people think they are. There's this, because of the loss to Texas, and then they followed it up with that South Florida game. The overwhelming mantra out there has been, "Oh, Alabama's down. The run with Nick Saban is over." And I think they've kind of enjoyed that obscurity a little bit. Instead of being out in the spotlight, they've been kind of able to run a little bit behind the scenes. And I think their defense has gotten way better. So low scoring game. I think Alabama wins it, but I don't know if they can cover the 9.5.
Yeah, I completely agree. Now watch them go win by 3 touchdowns. Be like,
They
oh,
might.
yeah, they might. Who knows? You got anything else on that game?
No, I definitely think Alabama wins, and there's going to be some payback going on in this game. This one's going to be hot
Yeah,
after last year.
yeah. Remember, that's the game where they threw the goalposts in the river, right?
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
awesome.
Threw the
That was
goalpost
awesome.
in the river, stormed the field with all the Bama players out there. That was awesome, and Bama's going to remember it.
No doubt. All right, last game. Number 14 Utah travels to take on number 18 USC. This game is 7 p.m. on Fox. USC is currently a 7-point favorite. Now, I believe Oregon and Washington are the two best teams in the Pac-12. But this is still a very important game in the Pac-12 race with how this thing could end up shaking out. This feels like a Pac-12 elimination game, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. And when I look at the two teams, USC's got they've got more talent. They still, despite how bad Caleb Williams played in the Notre Dame game, they still got the best player in college football in their team. But this game, this is a culture game for me. Would I be surprised at all if Utah goes into the Coliseum and pushes USC around at the line of scrimmage? No, not one bit. Would I be surprised if Caleb Williams is running for his life like he was against Notre Dame? Nope. Would not surprise me at all. We saw Utah push them around 2 times a year ago. Now, in the Pac-12 championship game, Caleb Williams got hurt. But I don't know, man. 7 points. I just don't. I think this is going to be another close football game. I know that not having Cam Rising it's a huge blow for Utah. There's no doubt about it. But it's a culture game, man. I just have a ton of respect for what Kyle Whittingham has built there at Utah.
I agree. I think the wrong team is favored in this football game. I think Utah should be favored, not Southern Cal. Caleb Williams was essentially eliminated from the football game against Notre Dame, and it was an ass whipping. I don't think Utah will be able to eliminate him from the game like Notre Dame did, but I still believe that without Caleb Williams, USC's not even a top 25 team. I don't even think they're close to a top 25 team. And I think Utah knows that. I think everyone knows that. It's just whether or not you can slow him down enough. And I think Utah can. And I still think that USC's biggest threat right now, and you're right when you say it's a culture game, Lincoln Riley put all his eggs in one basket. That was the transfer portal basket. Thinking that will make up the deficit in talent in the near term with the transfer portal. And once we have some established wins, we'll come in and hopefully be able to recruit who we need to fill in the gaps. Well, the problem is the recruiting has not been what they expected early on, and the transfer portal has created a locker room where, say what you want, I mean, I'm sure that everyone says the right thing and wants to do the right thing, but you have a bunch of individuals. There's not a whole lot of guys on this football team that, I mean, you know what it's like, Gabe. You come in with the same recruiting class, you grow up together, you go through the struggles of being freshmen and learning the grind, and the older you get, you're going to lose some guys here and there, but that tight core is always really the center of every football team. And I don't think they have that. And with all of the negative attention they've gotten over the last couple of weeks, that fractures way quicker whenever you don't have the tight core in the locker room. That's what I think they're really going to be fighting down the stretch. Like, there's going to be a lot of, Caleb Williams got his entourage that's always talking about the NFL. And I saw this morning that the new word is wherever he gets drafted, he wants to have partial ownership of the football team. Okay. It's distraction, right? There's all of this distraction going on. And I wonder how quickly are guys going to start worrying about positioning themselves for their own future. And while maybe that's smart for some guys, it's not good for the core of your football team. I think that's what they're really going to be fighting down the stretch here, because they're going to take some losses. Now, they may be able to pull it off against Utah. I favor Utah to win the football game, but if they don't, is that thing going to fall apart on them?
It's a great question, man. And that's why I've labeled it as a culture game. Like, how does USC bounce back?
The culture war.
A culture war. How does USC bounce back from the embarrassment of a weekend ago? Right. I expect Caleb Williams to bounce back in a big way. He's a really good football player. But the Trojans defense, they're going to get a big dose of Jaquindon Jackson and Sione Vaki. Those are big physical backs for Utah. So I would assume Utah's plan is to lean on that run game and not ask Bryson Barnes to do too much. I'm assuming it's going to be Barnes at quarterback. It's who we saw in their last game. But yeah, there's no way with what I know about Utah and what I know about USC, there's no way I'm laying a touchdown on the Trojans. Especially not after what we saw a week ago. There's no way. I think Notre Dame's a better team than Utah. Right now, if Utah was completely healthy, that's a different discussion. But I don't think Utah's that far off from what the Irish have.
Right.
So Trojans better buckle that chin strap and be ready to go.
Yeah, and everyone's going to smell blood in the water right now with USC as well, right? Did you watch any of film on the Notre Dame USC game? Because, I watched the whole game on TV. You can't see what they're doing coverage wise on TV. And I know that had a big part to do with obviously the interceptions, but he was under so much pressure because he was holding the football for so long. I don't know what they were doing on the back end.
When I watched their passing game, and I went and watched it because I was curious. They don't have many layups for Caleb Williams. Or if they have them, he's not taking them. Right? You think just rhythm passing game, 3-step, hit your back foot, ball out. 5-step, hit your back foot, ball out. It seems like they have none of that. It's all drop back, wait, look around, scramble around, make a play. Their passing game feels very disjointed to me.
Well, I think it's a weakness of Caleb Williams.
I agree.
Because in college, I think it's a bailout. It's harder to get the snap, have your timing, trust the read, and let it rip. And maybe you're throwing to a spot and the guy's going to run into it. What's easier for him is to sit in the pocket. He's got his eyes downfield, but he's really watching the rush. And as soon as he sees an area of weakness in the rush, he escapes out and waits for the secondary to break down. And then he makes a throw. Like, that's good until you face a defensive line that can chase you down and not let you out, like Notre Dame, right? He couldn't do that as well against Notre Dame because they kept getting to him and they kept getting their hands on him, and it wasn't as easy just to run around the corner and buy yourself an extra 5 seconds out on the perimeter. I think that's a real weakness of his. And if I was evaluating him as an NFL team, right, I think he's gotten in a bad habit of doing that way too often. Not to say that he can't do the other things, he can, but I feel like he's put himself in a really bad spot by doing it so much that that's what he's used to and always looking to do.
Totally agree. Anything else on that game?
Nope.
I'd take the points with Utah.
Some big ones, though. It's another good week college football, man. There's some big games out there.
No doubt.